Good job, you did it.
All right, there you guys are. Sorry, we were on our end, but not sure why it wasn't letting you guys in.
Welcome. And I think I see Kathy there too. Is that right?
I'm here.
Kathy? Hey, welcome. Welcome. Let's see.
Thank you.
You're 3 hours earlier on the left coast, right?
Yep.
Okay. Great. We will start the meeting then. We have a hard stop at 3:10 for good reasons. We may go a little bit beyond. Adam will have to slip out. Vicky will be in good hands with Vicky. I will start the meeting of September 30th, New London Housing Commission. We have, on the governance basis, Amy and Anne and myself, that's three. Tom and Randy, if you would, you'd be prepared to vote, that would be terrific, please. We may, at some point have a formal vote soon, because we will need to make some recommendations, probably not today, but it's always good to know, and your comments are always welcome, whether you're standing in as a commissioner or whether you are serving as an able alternate. So thank you for that. Quickly to review the fall schedule, I monitor this, as you know, as to how it's going and where it's going, and it's getting even quicker. September 30th is boxed on your schedule. The Citizens Committee meeting is at 7:30 on Saturday morning. I met with Steve Wright this morning to talk about content and flow and how the Citizens Committee is being reconstituted and given new mission, which is helpful. So if you would like to join me for that, it's going to be generally a review of where we've been and where we intend to go conceptually, talking about issues of housing. It will not be a replacement for the public forum, of course, but sort of introductory on that basis, and then a lot of Q&A. Tentatively, and by the way, the forum on the 21st of October, Vicky, needs to be on the calendar. The public forum is on October 21st, Tuesday, October 21st at 5:30. We'll be putting out advertisements for that, and so that will be in Whipple Hall.
And I know we've reserved the room on the calendar. It's probably just not on the website calendar.
That's all I can see is what the public sees. So then we are tentatively planning on the 14th of October at 6:30 or sometime during the planning board meeting to give them a preview of what we're going to be discussing in the public forum. Matter of courtesy and feedback. Yes, Anne.
What time did you say the meeting was on the 21st?
5:30.
This advertising's incorrect. It says 10 a.m.
It's just a placeholder.
Okay.
Kelsey was on vacation all last week. She worked overtime Sunday night, got that to me. I've raced it around. We're working fast. A lot of those are placeholders, more format than anything else. So back to the schedule, the public forum on the 21st. I think after that and before the second planning board workshop, which is tentatively on October 31st, we'll want to debrief and prepare for that second workshop. So because the public forum will give us some new ideas, and so we want to do that. So we'll get back to that schedule later, but that's why it's in yellow. We'll be thinking about an additional meeting. League of Women Voters lunch that Adam and I are presenting before is on Wednesday, November 12th. That's coming together. Obviously, that's some days off. And then the second planning board workshop may be on November 14th. So just keep your eyes on the schedule. Great. To the content of this meeting, very important, which is to finish our overview of the concepts that we have been contemplating and heard that the community is interested in hearing more about, and that we might be prepared to propose as a recommendation to the planning board. At our last meeting, I think we got a little bit too far into the weeds. We have red lines in front of us, and there will always be a reference. They're not, they're just work in progress, and they're a way of making us think about the different levers that each one has in it, and the different constraints and benefits and opportunities that each one represents. So I don't want to get too much involved in those. If there's a question or a thought that is of particular interest to you, then I'd encourage our discussion on that. And in essence, that's the way I kicked off the meeting in discussing some of them, was to say, well, a thought I had was about a particular aspect of one of them. And I think it probably went on too long. My fault not to rein things in quicker. So we have the two remaining concepts to talk about on an overview basis to understand what we think is a consideration that would be worth putting forward to the community. Those two concepts are revisions to the institutional districts and also home conversions. I think, unless you'd like to go back, we have covered the cluster subdivision and also cottage court. That being said, I would like to give you one piece of information quickly regarding there was a discussion about the age of homes in home conversion, and I'll have some details on that when we get to it. Zach, as you may remember, had done a study based on the assessor's data of the age of single-family homes, and I have some data on that, so we will get to that. So why don't we start with the institutional district? I'll use this profile sheet, which is the colorful one. This is a way of sort of thinking through this concept on an overview basis. The notion in the institutional districts is really founded on the concept that the institutions, I'm thinking of the hospital and the college. You might argue the Barn Playhouse is an institution too, and it is, I guess, but it's not in the kind of housing need that the other institutions are. So the concept here is to expand the capabilities of the two college institutions, the college and the hospital, because they are in great need of housing, and they also have substantial amounts of land. Um, I would argue clearly neither of them is interested in being developers necessarily, and neither of them necessarily plan to do this right away. But we should be aware that given that they are a user of housing or need of housing, and that they have the land and capability, we might see this as a lever, an opportunity to provide for some capacity as they see fit and want to arrange. So the potential paths forward would include expanding the institutional zone for the hospital, because there's a piece of land behind them that is not zoned institutional. As it was the land mostly, I believe, that Continuum was proposing to develop. That parcel, it's a parcel 19, is that right? It's the parcel behind them where Continuum was proposing to go. That is not zoned institutional. And it's one concept is to expand that district. There is no consideration, at least so far, that the college needs to expand their land area under institutional use, because it seems like it is predominantly so. The sports fields, soccer fields, et cetera, are in a different constraints for use. So it doesn't make a lot of sense. It would be not worthwhile for us to talk about residential development on that land, because it wouldn't happen, I believe, by deed or restriction or what have you. So we would consider allowing multifamily housing within the district, and perhaps increasing the height limit for multifamily buildings. With respect to the college, of course, there already are buildings there that are 45, 50 feet height, certainly residential buildings, they're dormitories. So we could consider under what opportunity we might encourage development of housing that's of similar style, and perhaps allow some additional height. And then lastly, as I mentioned, was expand the area of the hospital institutional district. But that's essentially the overview. And why don't I stop there and see if there are any thoughts or questions or suggestions?
It looks like you're also expanding or lot area also for the college, not just for
Where do you see that, Amy?
page 4, yard requirements?
Mhm.
Am I reading it wrong?
Are you in the red line?
Yep.
Yep,
But you've got yard requirements on page and land requirements on page 1 and 2 for hospital. Sorry, I've said it backwards. Doesn't matter.
page 4 looks like it's for hospital.
Yeah,
Yes.
I said it backwards, but you hadn't mentioned it for both groups.
Well, what I was suggesting is the hospital would be the situation where we could expand the institutional district. I don't think that the college has an opportunity for that. And with respect, I think it's tax parcel number 19 is the one we're talking about. It's
Adam,
behind the hospital where Continuum was developing. Is that clear?
So my concern with the hospital piece is the multifamily I'm fine with. I think the 6 units per acre works. I'm a little concerned about the 45 feet tall. I think that might be pushback to that. When buildings start getting taller, it has a different look and feel, and I don't know if that's going to fly with the community very well. And I don't know if that's our concern right now or not. But if we're looking at how to, and even at the photos on this institutional page, there's only one photo with 3-story. All the other photos are 2-story, and I just think that's easier to for the community to get behind. So that's my
I share your concern. The height gives people one more reason not to vote for whatever gets proposed.
I agree with Randy. We can step into a higher height if we change the institutional zone to allow this, but it puts more demand on all the public services the higher up we get.
Do you guys feel like there's a difference between the college and the hospital? As far as height, many of the college buildings are already that tall. And we granted a variance to build the new nursing building. And it didn't create any, I mean, Anne was on the zoning board that
Right.
approved that. I don't know if you had memory of that.
I was.
It didn't seem like there was a lot of public pushback on that, but perhaps the hospital is seen slightly different.
So
yes.
the college doesn't have any living space in the top 1/3 of the building. Basically, the roof pitch is not, it's only equipment for running all of the different devices that are in but there's no living up there. And
But
there's no living, period.
It is finished space with all the mechanicals though. So I mean, we went through the whole analysis as far as, fire response is oftentimes a concern. And obviously all the mechanicals up there, that's the spot where you would perhaps see a fire. And because of the modern day suppression systems and the fact that we have a 70-foot ladder, they didn't have concern there with that particular setup, but.
But it does raise the issue with respect to the way we measure height in New London, which it does include the peak of a roof if it's a pitched roof. Coming from a commercial development background, in most towns in a more metro area, the height of the building is to the highest point of the occupied floor. So that if there are mechanicals on the rooftop, as there would be in a hospital use, that would not be included in the height. And then the municipality adds a screening requirement. So if you put mechanicals on the roof, it doesn't get included in the height, but you have to screen it from view with some sort of attractive screen. We can't do that here. Because it's primarily a residential town. So I don't disagree at all with the notion of thinking about different height requirement relief for the hospital institutional zone. But we have to consider they'll have a lot more mechanicals on the rooftop. And so
Is there so my concern is not just the actual how many feet it is, but it's how many floors of living space. Is there a way to say, if it's 2-story and it's a little taller, design, that's less of a concern to me than if it's 3 stories of living.
Well, you can fit 3 stories within 35 feet as it is. I mean, Peter Christian's is 3 stories, right? And that is conforming in height.
The 3 floors of the 3-story tend to make the ceilings inside a little
Lower.
shorter.
It does.
And it ends up with a squatty pitched roof.
So
But there's plenty of room upstairs on the 3rd floor in PCs.
my question really is something you said earlier, Peter, about switching the zone from what it is to something else. And my concern is if continuum didn't go through, how is switching the zone going to help them? How is that going to be an incentive? Because the water issue is going to come up right away. I'm not saying that they would looking to do some, I mean, in other words, we want them to consider doing something if they really wanted to, right? But it feels like in the current climate, they're not, regardless of changing the zone, they're not going to want to do anything.
Well, that's perhaps true. We're thinking long-term. Creating an institutional zone on that additional parcel
Right.
would allow the institution to do more of what it does, which is, I would argue, good for the town. Healthcare is important to the town.
But it wouldn't
Uh,
be residential.
Well, we would add multifamily. That's, if you look on the profile
Right.
sheet,
I
that's
saw that.
would allow multifamily, which now it does, but more on a single family density
Okay,
basis.
right. I
This allows more
understand that.
density on a multifamily basis,
Okay.
as was continuum, which was, eventually allowed, but it was at a lower density.
Okay.
It's a good site for residential, you could argue, from a planning standpoint.
And for obviously there was a component of continuum that was multifamily, right? So the assisted living and the memory care
Correct.
looks and acts like a multifamily property, but because they fall under the retirement care community umbrella, our R1 allows for retirement care community, and there's a different set of parameters there than just typical residential development that's not part of an RCC.
Oh, and that's what they had?
Correct.
Correct. Okay.
Yep. They were sort of, I mean, it was all under the RCC, but from the context of the styles we've been talking about, they were kind of a mix of a cluster and a multifamily. It's just that it was all independent assisted and memory care under the umbrella of an RCC.
How tall is the hospital building now?
There's a portion that's over 35 feet because they have a variance from 15 or so years ago. I couldn't tell you the exact height, but there was a portion that they had to get a variance for and get more screening.
I think that was extended care because the lower level exists.
Oh,
Maryland, from the
walkout.
back side, that
Yeah.
there is 3 stories.
So I was just, when you said, is there a difference between the two? It does seem like tall buildings would fit better up around the college than they would down around the hospital. And that's why I was thinking, am I just not thinking about this right? Or, because there are some.
I agree. I agree.
I think the perception with the hospital is hard because the topography changes so
Yeah.
much.
True.
And so on one side, it seems, pretty normal for our height. And then on the other side, it seems taller, which averages out because we measure our heights averaged at grade around the building to the finished
Mhm.
peak there. So it averages out to, I think it's like 39 feet, but don't quote me on that.
But what
Even
you
though there are
see
spots
is-
that are taller than that just because the topography.
Driving by, you don't really see that part of it.
Right.
It's,
So
If I could just
I'm-
interject, I mean, this property that you're looking at, it's Mark, considering it would be behind the hospital, well off the road. And it does abut your commercial zone. So I think that is something to consider too. I mean, when we're talking about a piece of property that would extend pretty deep off the road. So if there was housing back there at that height, it's not going to be next to the existing road there, county road.
And so we have the ability to decide where on the, here, let me just try to share this so that I know Steve and Mark have seen
Is,
it for
Adam,
cabinets.
you're looking at this on or you were,
Yeah,
on the
just
map,
a sheet
is the
so that
only
happens.
institutional that that number 19, or is they've got anything that's owned by the hospital is considered institutional?
No, so it's just the hospital parcel itself, number 18. So number 19 is actually several lots that were put together. They subdivided out the commercial area back before the Continuum project. But so what Peter and I and Mark and Steve had discussed was not going all the way to Parkside Road with the expanded zone, so that it created still a buffer, because obviously the Parkside neighborhood is a very different feeling from even the county road, the northernmost part of county road feeling, to sort of still have a buffer from the sort of nature park side of Parkside. But that even a modest expansion halfway through the lot of the zone would provide some flexibility.
Excellent.
Isn't there a
As long as-
multifamily
as
zone
long
on
as they would-
22 also, Adam? Lot 22.
This is a PUD. Yep. Yep.
That's a
And that's-
three-story plus building right there. If I remember right.
Lion
What
Brook,
was that?
It's only 2-story.
It's only two, I'm sorry. I know it's multifamily.
It does sit high on the hills though, so
It does.
from the road, it actually feels taller than it actually is by the time you drive up there. And
What are you talking about?
Lion Brook.
Lion Brook. So you're saying that if we encourage a change of zone, it would be to lot 19,
Yeah.
correct?
Or half of lot 19, where, I mean, I think that makes a huge difference. And I think preserving the, you know, the rural, you know, what you see when you drive down the road is gonna matter to people. In terms of the character, so either by setbacks or partial expansion would be key. And that's where I still kind of weigh in favor of the density, but at 2 stories, not 3, because of that visual effect.
Plus doing it could be, no one would take us up on, take the opportunity to necessarily do something until down the road. Right? It wouldn't be in the next 5 years. I mean, someone
Right.
could be, but
The
Given-
water issue has to be resolved.
Correct.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I do just want to clarify though, that even if the height stays at 35 feet, which exists all throughout town, we could very much have a 3-story building. So we don't have any regs that require a peak, so you could do a flat roofed building with 3 stories. You can even get a small peak. So if that is something that's actually desired, we will have to talk about a different way to constrain that. I don't know if constraining it to stories works very well. As crazy as this is, there was a 2-story house in Wilmette that ended up in the Supreme Court because they built like 14-foot ceilings. And it went way over their height ordinance. So I think we do want to pick a number if it's
Then
not-
I would just stay with our 35, because I think that's gonna take care of a lot of the objections. And I think we can get a better approval on expanding the institutional area and allowing multifamily housing. And I think we have to go for the wins right now.
Right.
Right. And this is with respect to the hospital only.
Yeah,
Question, was any part of lot 19 affected by the pollution from the,
Yes.
yeah, that was affected. Okay,
Mhm.
Yes.
all right.
Yes, I think we should be careful in how the groundwater tested positive for the effect. I'm not sure that the actual ground or lot has shown.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would also add to that, having been through it on other developments elsewhere, contamination of solvents is a serious matter, but there are 2 different levels of concern for contamination. One is if it's exposed to people on the surface, such as children or anybody on the surface. The other one is a drinking water standard.
Right.
And the drinking water standard, of
Yeah.
course, is a stricter standard, and that's what was being dealt with as to the contamination concern. Okay, so I hear there would be some sort of protection along Parkside so that these institutional zone would not be expanded all the way to Parkside. That makes sense. Some sort of area or that would be retained in its current zone along Parkside, and that the height would be maintained at 35 feet. Am I hearing also that it makes sense to consider for the college to be higher than 35 feet? We
It
still-
sounds like it already is, so that's easier to swallow, I think.
Well, that's true. That's true. But there's such a thing as non-conforming pre-existing conditions. So
Yeah.
So the area though, at the college might be exposed to Siemens Road, which is residential. So I think we have to sort of keep that in mind. When the nursing building went in, it was up by the taller buildings. They're gonna have to come down.
Siemens
Close to
Road, that's a
Siemens
good
Road.
point. Yep. That's a good point.
So you'd want setbacks there too.
Or potentially look at allowing an increase in height by special exception. So the
Yes.
variance isn't required. I mean, a variance, the criteria, obviously they were successful in the one that they obtained, but the criteria are not meant to be easy, and proving a hardship can be a challenge.
Refresh my memory. Did we have to do a variance or a special exception for the building? A variance? Okay.
And I mean, the extra step costs the college money, and you know, certainly when Peter and I met with Karen, I think it was one of the biggest things she brought up was how constraining the height is, because it not only does it cost money to go through the process of obtaining a variance, but it also, if you're building a building and you need X number of square feet in that building, you're increasing the footprint of the building, which does all sorts of environmental things like increase the impervious area, and increases the stormwater management you need. At the same time, you're chewing up some of the land you could use for stormwater management, and then it just drives up the site costs there. So I think it is
Can you,
important to them.
Adam, can you put up the map of what the college zone is? Because I'm simply envisioning existing college, but if you're talking about all the undeveloped land along Siemens, that's a horse of a different color.
well, it would include that land, right?
So I
I don't know,
do,
that's what I want to see.
So it's this lot here is the institutional. I don't know, Kathy, you might be thinking of the recreation zone, which is across the street. And that's a separate zone.
Okay.
This does have the land along Siemens. This is wet down in here. You know, there's
Wetlands? Okay,
yeah, there's Susan's Swamp in here. You know where the K lot is.
yeah, that's fine. I was worried how far down Siemens it was going.
Yeah,
Okay,
a little ways past where the Kelsey Fields.
yeah,
entrance
that's fine.
other
Okay,
side.
that's okay. So it's really kind of the existing perimeter of the college.
Correct.
Okay, I think that's more palatable, at the 45 feet.
so
May
I
I
do,
suggest that if you're going to look at another layer of approval, maybe do a CUP, conditional use permit with the planning board versus special exception?
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
so I just do want to say that even though Adam, when the ZBA looked at this new building, the nursing building, it was actually being built on one of the very highest sites of Colby's campus.
Yes.
So it was going to be a lot taller. We all thought it would look a lot taller than it does, and it has fit in nicely. I will comment that that was a major hurdle.
Any other thoughts, questions?
Yes. Let's bounce back to lot 19.
Mhm.
Would that, using a portion of that lot, would that require a subdivision of the lot? Or just leave it alone and only use that portion? I'm not sure
I
if
believe
that
it would
would
not have to be
require-
subdivided,
It would be.
particularly if it's in the same ownership,
Yes.
right? It's,
Yeah,
that's the way it would work.
Okay.
Could be done under a long-term ground lease. Let me give an example. Once upon a time in a different economy, I was proposing to launch a business in the Boston metro area to build residential buildings, multi-story residential buildings, and master lease them back to the institutions. This is in northeastern BU, BC. They were all busting at the seams, and the neighborhoods wanted to get the students out of out of their areas, and the institutions wanted to get their students closer to campus. It eventually it became a very attractive business and the economy changed, so it didn't make sense, but it was a very good opportunity. So that could happen here, for example, and I'm not suggesting anything, but as a scenario, the college could say, we need professors' housing and we want to build townhouses along Siemens Road, 75 feet deep, and put them in attractive format along Siemens, matching the sort of residential nature that exists there today with proper setbacks and front yards and gardens or what have you, and make it attractive. But that gives them, and it could be a developer that would do that and lease it back to the college. Or could be a developer that would make an arrangement to buy it and do it for the college, or do it for themselves. It's still housing that we need.
In that
And-
case, do we have to change the height or what would need to be changed as far as zoning? Anything?
I mean, if they're going for townhouse style, I can't imagine 35 feet being
No.
a problem, but it's hard to say until you see the actual proposal. But and the college has utilized that model before when Harry Snow built the original Cottage Lane units, and they leased those for 15, 20 years before
Correct.
that relationship ended.
How tall are those buildings?
I mean, they're less than 35 feet. However, it is purely based on the averaging because the rear on if you're driving into it, the units that are on the right-hand side, they all have full drive-out garages in the basement.
The curbside is at those appears one way, the backside does not.
I would say they're
Just like the
close
hospital.
to 40, 45 feet on the back. I mean, they're pretty steep
Yeah.
pitched and they are 3 full
Correct.
commercial height stories.
And it's using average finish grade is the way the heights are measured.
So just on the hospital site, if you were to split zone that, you don't need a subdivision. It just creates 2 different zoning provisions for that lot. So
Mhm.
one side will allow one thing and along Park side will be another.
Right.
The hospital could annex the area of the land that was now zoned institutional to the main hospital portion if they wanted to. They ended up with some funny lot lines during the continuum project. So, anything like that could still happen.
Okay. Any other thoughts on institutional? So we move on? This feels pretty good for us, right? Okay. We're not voting here. We're just kind of getting a general sense of it. The only one thing I would add on institutional just quickly is whether or not daycare should be included as one of the uses in the preamble that sort of says, well, the uses that are consistent with institutional should include daycare because they both have them and it's integral to the businesses that they run, and it would make it easier for them to do their business. But we can get into that kind of detail later on. Just something that occurred to me. Okay, shall we move to home conversion then?
Yep.
Our stage 1 in our HOP grant was the discovery of the demographic situation in town, the conditions that exist, and also the housing needs assessment. And that also talked about the size of houses that seems to be larger in our town than other towns. There are different ways to measure houses, but it seems that they are bigger generally. They're also fairly old in comparison. I'm talking in generalities because if we get into the details, it's probably not necessary. And so we have seen that there's a demographic need for seniors, I'll call myself a senior included, that might be considered downsizing. And we saw that in the number of people that put deposits on units in the Continuum project that now, of course, has not gone forward. And there's some discomfort with all those people that wanted to downsize but couldn't. There's also, I think we've discovered in our study that there is a need for smaller starter homes for younger people, younger families that have not formed yet, singles, pairs, whatever. And they're both a need for smaller size housing. So we have, if you consider the downsizing senior capacity, we have seniors like myself, of course, who may live in a home that's big enough that could be 2 units instead of 1. Well, we know that the ADU law that's now been established will require the town to approve an internal ADU as of right with a building permit. Correct, Adam? Yeah. Or a detached, but nonetheless, the notion of allowing large homes, 3,000 square feet, even 2,500, to be divided into perhaps 3 units or even 4 if it's big enough. You think of a 4,000 square foot home, that's 4 units of 1,000 square feet each. That's quite possible. So the notion of home conversion is to deal with that additional capacity of square footage, which is the way commercial developers think, and slice it up enough so it could be used in the size of housing that is in demand both by seniors and in younger families. So if you look at the profile, looking at this colorful sheet, we'd allow single-family homes to be converted to accommodate up to 4 units in the R1, R2, and ARR district built prior to 1960 if they're larger than 2,000 square feet in size. This would be under a conditional use permit provision. I'm going to hand around quickly an email that Steve put together with Mark's data. Oh, no, I guess it's Zach's data.
Thank you.
What we were trying to figure out is what the date should be, if they were built prior to what date. In this case, it's, the consideration is 1960. And what Zach had come up with, it was that the median age of a single-family structure in New London is 1978. And 78 would be 20, 40, 47 years old then, right?
Didn't that just see 50 years someplace?
And
Where is?
We put 50 years at the beginning of the red line version just because time will go by if this is adopted. And
Yeah.
at some point, there will be large homes that are built in the 70s and 80s that may be appropriate. So
That's 1975. I had to do the math. So that's,
I'm sorry, say that again, Marilyn?
it's 1975. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe that's 50 years ago. But
Yeah, yeah.
there it is.
So Steve, you are allowing for the additional time to go by, right?
Steve, if you're talking, you're on mute. Sorry.
no, I'm glad you said something. I thought I was unmuted. Yeah, we just flagged that for conversation with the planning board later on so that we're
Okay.
not an arbitrary date forever.
You just padding it.
60 makes sense today, but I don't, if this
Okay.
regulation goes forward, it may not get changed for a long time. So
Okay.
So in other words, it would be older than 60 years old or older than
older than 50 years old.
50. Okay.
It just needs to be consistent, whatever it is. It's 51 place and 60 another. And
Yep. Well,
That's
it says-
because the profile drafts are from your second forum
yeah,
and the redlining is recent.
So I'll just quickly add, and in fact, if you look at some of these photographs, I think maybe I took the one on the bottom. But as I wandered around and took photographs with my camera of potential photo to use for our presentations, time and time again, I came across large structures that I thought, gee, you really could, you may have to put in some internal stairs or how you would manage the adjacencies of these spaces. And of course, I'm thinking in terms of plumbing stacks, and it's not easy just to drop a bathroom into the middle of an old structure because they'll have to have all the vertical drainage and water supply, et cetera. Then you also have to consider the independence of utilities. Are you going to provide heat to every unit so everybody pays their purported share, or the cost of heating is included in the rent? Or if you condominiumize it, then that's not possible. So there are a number of considerations, but the structures are big enough to accommodate it. I came to that conclusion when I was taking pictures.
And one thing I'll add, I have it pulled up here on the screen for folks, but certainly the perfect time of year to take an afternoon and head over to Woodstock, Vermont, and take a walk around. And this is a really popular style in Woodstock, where a lot of the large old houses were converted. This one on the corner of Mountain Ave and River Street, right at the middle covered bridge, if you're familiar with the town, you can see there are 5 mailboxes there. It does not look like it's a 5 family, but it's been converted. They're individual condos. When they come on the market, I've seen the smallest 1-bedroom condo at like 350,000, to the largest, at 500,000, but this is in a neighborhood of the bottom market for a single family is $2 million. And so it's still a diverse option that wouldn't otherwise be there. And there's a lot of these. I mean, look at, as you're walking through, look at their doors, and the mailboxes are usually the telltale sign of if there's multiples. But right over on the green, there's several of them, and it's a good time of year to go see the leaves and take a look at some conversions in progress or in play.
So Adam,
thoughts?
what does their zoning look like for those to be converted?
I'm not sure exactly what Woodstock has two zonings. There's a village district and then there's the town. And I'm not familiar with
I'd
theirs.
be curious to see how they word their, or what they allow those conversions to occur in,
Mhm.
how it's worded.
And I think Steve and Mark did pull from one ordinance that they, right? This came from someone else's, was it?
That came from Lebanon. I'm trying to
Lebanon.
pull up Woodstock right now to see how similar it is, but yeah, that came from Lebanon. A lot of the more urban places have been dealing with this for a long time. And now, as you're showing, Adam, it's starting to be used at the village scale for many of the reasons Peter cited. They're places people want to live, they're willing to invest for a smaller unit.
I think this is going to go over very well and pretty easily. Any photographs we could have of those Woodstock, Vermont things, pictures are worth 1,000 words in this case, I think would be helpful. But I think this is going to be pretty easy peasy and is good to go with the red line that we've got.
And I should add, a good local example is the Tracy Farm. I'm sure everyone's probably familiar with the Tracy Farm in
That's been
Maryland.
there forever.
Yeah, do you guys know how many units are in there? I don't even know. It's
Yeah.
There's
5
a,
or 6, I think.
Which one's the Tracy Farm?
The
You go up County Road.
I know where it is. I photographed it. Yeah. Yeah.
You
I mean,
do that.
I'd say there's 4 and possibly 5.
That's a
And-
very good local example then. I mean, you don't
The
need to go to
main-
Vermont.
There's,
mean, it's-
there's some
yeah.
on Main
Yeah.
Street too. I mean,
The old hospital on Main Street
the old
is another one.
hospital and then the blue,
ye-
how many does the blue
The other,
building
the one
have?
across the street, Dr. Clark's office.
the former Yellow House.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
the
they have
former yellow
5.
house.
It was such a distinguishing factor. I can't
AKA
believe
the
they kept
yellow.
it.
So many of those houses were actually doctors' houses and they had their offices in them. So they were multi-use
And I think
a long time ago.
the one next to John Tilley's, that has a couple units in there too, doesn't it? Where the Mills, doesn't that have a second unit?
It goes back, right?
But that's John Tilly's that goes way back.
Oh.
Yeah,
John Tilley has single family on either side.
Yeah, he
I was
does.
thinking the one to the left had a extra.
No, that's
That's-
who's his house? That's
The,
not a,
the old hospital is 2 houses down.
Yep. Anyways,
that's a Mills,
yeah, it's
Next door.
Brianna's
yeah,
house.
but it's not multiple,
Oh, okay.
I don't think.
So there are a couple, again, I don't want to get into the details, but a few flags that came up in my mind, and we can think about this for later. One of them is ultimately a conversion may require some small additional expansion, whether it be for a staircase or an outbuilding for the boiler system that heats them, or, and
There's going to be
so,
fire issues.
sorry?
There's going to be fire issues.
Well, yeah, and these are the kinds of things that a conversion would need in order to make it viable. A developer could say, I got to have a boiler system and I can't put it in the building. The fire code won't allow it, or I need an extra staircase, or. So my only question is, there's talk about new construction associated with a home conversion, and we may want to think about how that would be allowed and how it would not be allowed. Because if you allow a whole big expansion of new construction. It's another unit, and that's not really conversion. That's creating an additional unit. Now, to that point, could an ADU, detached ADU be put in a home conversion and add additional unit? And I think the answer is yes.
So if you end up.
Taking an
with three
existing
condos-
structure,
Yep.
you have an old home with a garage, carriage house or whatever. It's not an existing residential unit now. That could be converted into a detached ADU, and the existing structure could be divided into whatever seems appropriate up to 4. I read it as yes, but I'm not an expert.
So
That's interesting.
Marilyn, Elmer's, I don't know if his name was Elmer, the one that's next to the slowly but surely creeping down from the barn playhouse. The house that has the extra carriage shed out back that has been converted to a housing. It used to be Walt Chadwick's helper. You know, the little white cottage that sits down off of Main Street. I think that one of the Clark. Right.
Oh, where the old milk house was, yes, the barn playhouse owns it now. Yep. I don't.
Scare
I
that.
don't believe based on.
No, but it's an example of what Peter's talking about. It's an old house that's using an
But I think
external building.
Based on our current definition, I don't think we could replicate that. Because it says, and obviously the within or attached is no longer relevant, but what it says is a definition of an ADU is a residential living unit that is within or attached to a single family dwelling. So it would no longer be single family if it was a home conversion.
Oh, I see.
Right.
So it's a matter
I
of
was just about
timing.
to say that.
You could do the detached and then you could later. Okay, that's fine. This is detail, but just things that flags. The other thing is, with respect to, state building inspectors. Is this the kind of thing that a developer could do as a conversion without state inspector, or is that?
Well, if it's multifamily, if it's 3 units or more, we send multifamily projects to the state fire marshal's office for their building permit.
Okay.
So they would have to go through that process. State law has loosened what the requirement is for a sprinkler system. So a
Correct.
3 unit wouldn't need that, but they'd still have to go through and have their plumbing inspections, their electrical inspections, all of those.
Okay. Well, we might, I guess if that's a standard the town has set, then that's appropriate, but we might think about for home conversions, if we really need to have the state building inspector. Obviously, we want to be safe, and the fire chief would weigh in, and the police chief, and
I
the
mean,
process would be followed.
Technically, the code exists everywhere, whether the state inspectors come out or the town has their own. So in theory, it shouldn't change their construction practices, although I think accountability might play into that a little bit.
Mhm. Okay, well, those are my minutia. Let's not get bound up in that. Any other questions, thoughts? How does this feel to you? Generally, we're not going to vote on it now, but we're going to finish our review, and I think after our public forum, we'll then have a follow-up meeting and decide what we want to put forward, but.
I just want to encourage us to remind the public that the Harry Snow's development, which started out more institutional because it was housing for students, at the horror of the town at the time, of it being converted into apartments, it has been such a bonus to the town, and people need to be reminded of that again and again and again. And it's been tucked away, and they haven't made any large impact on the town. We didn't even notice they all moved in.
Do you think that we should use photographs of that?
Yes, photographs and highlighting any wins and existing things for any of these designs are super duper helpful.
You're
particularly
talking about
in
that
the-
cottage lane? Yeah. I took some pictures of that too. We're not using any of them yet, but I have some that I took, so we may be able to use those.
If they were winter, make them right now because it looks really pretty.
I don't recall, but I can figure it out. Any other thoughts? This feels
I'm
pretty
co-
good?
I'm comfortable.
Good, good. Okay, well, that completes our review because we talked about cottage courts and cluster subdivisions. I just quickly want to touch on the point of the accessory dwelling units, which is required statutorily, and how we'll position ourselves in that respect. It is something we need to mention because it's required, but because it's procedural, I'm suggesting that we quickly talk about that when we present and when we go over our ideas with people. We also talk about the water precinct because we know that's still in play, both by virtue of legal claims and also engineering studies that show that there are some options and possibilities, but it's going to take some time. So those two issues, I don't want to get bound in the ADU discussion because it's a matter of law. In fact, it already exists, as we all know, as of July 1, 2025. So we can simply state that it's required and detached or attached accessory dwelling unit, internal accessory dwelling unit are required for approval up to a certain size. And the planning board will be dealing with how to comply with that appropriately. I say planning board, but of course, planning board and Adam at the lead of them.
And I don't foresee anything other than what needs to be changed to accommodate the state law. At this point, obviously, the planning board between now and December could make a change in that, but early discussions feel like making the modifications to come into compliance is the most important part.
Adam, this is just a question I would think the general public might ask. If you have a detached ADU, does it still have to meet all the setbacks
Yes.
for its zone?
With the exception of if there's an existing accessory structure that is somehow legally non-conforming. So you have a garage conversion or something, the law allows you to, or requires you to allow that be legalized for.
Okay.
So pre-existing, non-existing, pre-existing structures are waived, yeah, are non-conforming.
Yeah.
That answers
But
my question.
any new construction I want to build from ground up needs to comply.
And is the ARR district changing any of its zoning in the planning board's mind? That's not our purview or not?
That has not been
Okay.
high on their list, but I think if there's stuff that you or this committee is interested in, feel
Okay.
free to pass things along.
Okay, great. Let's keep moving. We have 10 more minutes with Adam. So let's do things with Adam that would be helpful. I mean, they're always helpful, but in specifically logistics of the forum, the venue is Whipple Hall. Let's think now as to how to engage the community in the best way. Public forum number 3 is in Whipple, which we wanted it to be a little bit more formal. It's not the cafeteria where we want a round table. And it's not Wheeler Hall where we had a sort of a academic, I would say, environment where we can have discussions and raise hands and listen to the facts of our town. What do we want to do about the seating? Do we want it sort of auditorium style? I don't think tables would be appropriate, so we do it the usual style of seating, auditorium style. Maybe we'll curve it a little bit to make it interesting and welcoming. Can we do some sort of refreshments? I know we don't have Colby Sawyer as a source for us.
Yeah, I think we could probably at that time.
Todd?
I mean,
Time is 5:30. Yeah.
a couple of cheese and cracker platters or something. I don't know. I guess we can talk about logistics of that. Get some pricing from Hannaford's or BJ's or.
Okay. Amy, you were really good at this before. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're a crackerjack at doing something that's tasteful, and you want to come up with some ideas, and I'll be glad to help, and others can.
But we want
Tom's
to be
Tom's
living
smiling.
this, correct?
Yes, yes.
Because I don't want to encourage people to come and eat. I
No.
want to encourage them to come and listen, participate.
Right.
It's not about eating.
And we don't want sticky drinks on the floor either. So water. It is in the evening, so maybe we should have coffee, but I don't know. I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
As you can
I
tell.
would keep it simple, easy finger, not messy things, cheese and crackers, and I'm happy to help if anybody. But I think, yeah, a couple platters from Hannaford's or whatever will be fine. Just so somebody isn't starving to death and can't think. But otherwise, we want people to stay focused.
Yep, yep. Thank you, Kathy. Yes, if you and Amy would tackle that, that'd be great. And I think that covers it as far as logistics. Unless, Steve, Mark, you have any other suggestions? I know Liz is not on board for this, but any thoughts?
Now, I think last meeting, the first half or so of last meeting, we got a lot of good direction from the commission about how the PowerPoint should be structured and the examples and all that. So Mark and I were actually just texting back and forth because he's not going to be available for that meeting, but Zach's going to join me. So we'll start drafting that so we can send it around to you, Peter and Adam, and have you
Okay.
submit and provide other photos. I think based on what we heard today, if people can provide some additional photos of those other places that help fill out these examples, it'll make it really engaging.
Yep, I'll go through the pictures I have and if there's some others locally I can grab, I will. I'm been pretty busy getting ready for the citizen committee piece, but I can get that to you, what I have, and then Adam and I can talk about others. We'd also incidentally talked about having a list of examples of housing subdivisions in town and what they were, whether they were a cluster or PUD or what have you. And
I think we have that list. At one point, Steve, I think we did that for one of the sessions, didn't we?
Yeah, I believe you and Peter put one together and went out, took pictures of some of them, and then Peter went out and took pictures of other units. So we should look back.
Okay, and we can certainly do it again. It doesn't take long if we need to, but
Yep.
Let's look back first.
And we may not have pictures for all of these, but some of them are quickly coming to minds of the people we're talking with. Fenwood, Great Pines, Hilltop, Highland Ridge, Seasons, Lion Brook, now Cottage Lane. There are others too. So those are the kinds of things. So, and lastly, as to slide deck you're working on that, so we'll have that in play. I guess then quickly, we'll talk about the next meeting because Adam will be rolling out pretty soon. And then I want to talk about how we're going to advertise for this because we need to get out advertising for tomorrow, which is Wednesday, in order to meet our deadline, and we have some materials to go through. So my question is, I think we will need a debrief meeting right after the forum. And we also will want to have some time to adjust for any changes for the first planning board workshop, which is tentatively on the 31st. And remember, that's early in the morning.
Bless you.
What? Hey, Peter.
Yeah,
So we're gonna be meeting with the planning board on the 14th to give them a preview. Then you're having the forum on the 21st. At that point, doesn't it stay with the planning board?
well, the preview meeting is so they see what we're presenting in the public forum.
Understood.
The public forum is when we get feedback from the community.
Right.
So,
and so then the plan is to have the planning board and the housing commission meet on October 31st and then again on the 14th. Really, it's a planning board meeting and, they'll sort of run with it, but to the extent that the housing commission can attend and participate in that process, we'd certainly welcome them.
so my point is before the first planning board workshop, which is their meeting, we will need to have a package to present to them. And some of that may be adjusted based on the forum feedback. Maybe not at all, but and perhaps not substantially.
Are you talking
right.
about a red line package?
I don't know. What do you think?
Then what do you need for it to include?
Good question.
I just asked the question because that's not been in any of our timelines of meetings to squeeze another meeting in there.
Okay.
And so I just don't want to have a meeting for the sake of a meeting. You have a lot of momentum being built, and ultimately the planning board, with input from the commission, is going to have to start making some decisions because town meeting season's coming up quick.
Yeah.
Right. I think the red lines as the starting place of the conversation should be more than sufficient. And
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
anticipate them having drastic things. I mean, I think they appreciate the time and effort that you guys have put in, consultants and commission, to get to that point that, it shouldn't be anything of reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're saying yes, redlined? Yeah.
Yes, red line, but
Yep.
we don't have to
But that doesn't mean
repackage.
they can change it.
Right,
Right,
They can
'cause they're
certainly
gonna
change it,
It's
but
work in progress. They
Yep.
may throw it out, but at least it's speaking in the language that they speak and that we speak to. So we won't have the meeting on October 29th. I certainly don't want to hold meetings that aren't productive. That is not fun. Okay, I think that is all there. Unless there's something else, I'd like to jump to advertising for the forum, which we need to jump into pretty quickly.
Wait,
Just-
one sec.
Hold
Question.
on, hold on one second.
oh my goodness gracious.
Adam, did we need you for the Twin Pines Housing and Water Precinct updates?
I don't really have anything to update at this very moment.
I think I can do that, which,
Okay,
because it's so brief. The Twin Pines matter has not been resolved in the courts.
Right.
There's a counter suit that's in play now by Twin Pines. They're patient, and I saw David Crandall yesterday, and they're working hard on it. They've not abandoned. They're working hard. I told them I admired them for the tenacity and stamina they had in this, because these kinds of legal matters are not fun for developers. They'd rather be doing things constructive or frankly, move on to somewhere else. That's time is money to developers. And one of the things you learn pretty quickly is when to cut the cord and take your losses. The best losses are your early losses.
Okay.
So,
and Water Precinct, was there a,
I didn't attend the last meeting, so I can't give a true update, but what I understand is there's an engineering report that talks about ways to enhance the water capacity. And I see Rich Epstein in the audience. You probably can give us a better update. Rich, do you have any update on that? Would you mind giving us? Can you use them? Is there a microphone?
I was there too, so.
Oh, you were there too. Okay. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, yeah. We're being recorded, so if you wouldn't mind, grab the microphone.
Well, I guess unfortunately, I don't remember much in the way of specific, I should say, Rich Epstein resident. I mean, I heard them basically caveat everything. Yeah, I mean, yes, they could potentially get more water from one well. They don't know if that will draw away from water from another well, things like that. But, so I understand, there's a lot more work that has to be done. And it'll be years to sort it out, because even at the next, if they take a next step, it's just to get more details for a real project to occur. So we're talking, at least 2-3 years out. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
he said that, even if one of the suggestions was pursued, by the time it came around and would be online, it would be like 3.5 years, I think is what he
Something
said.
like that.
Yeah.
So is
And
the engineer gave a report or they reviewed the report, but it was really point and counterpoint as they went through it.
Well, what it was, I think it was a recommendation. They recommended they could try 2 places for 2 more wells. But
Yeah.
what Jakesy said was that no one says what's going to happen to the existing wells if you drill 2 new wells. So that's a valid question. I mean, who knows? So I mean, it was just a regular meeting for them. They weren't really there to,
okay,
The cost is on.
yeah, and the cost is unknown. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
okay, back to your advertising.
Yes, let's do advertising. Again, Kelsey's was great at landing on the ground after a vacation and put something out as a placeholder, which I gave you in copy. And then also I want to hand this around. In the meantime, see, there's lots going on with these things. Thank you. So Steve Whitman, when we were talking, I said, hey, if you've got any ideas for advertising, what we should be using for catchphrases, et cetera, please give it to us. So I would ask you to put the placeholder graphics that Kelsey produce in front of you. There are two of them. There's a half page, which actually is in landscape format, but it's filling the page. That is actually a half page
Oh,
ad, the what's next. That would be a half page. And then the one that's vertical, portrait format, would be a full page. Again, the language is just placeholders. Don't take that as verbatim. And then Steve had some ideas off the cuff, which are helpful, and that's in the email that I gave you a copy of. It says, "A place to call home" would be sort of a title. April's public forum provided us with the opportunity to learn about and discuss a variety of regulatory strategies that could guide the development of future housing in New London. Another one might be Shaping New London's Future. This is kind of the header. Please join the Housing Commission Planning Board and your fellow citizens to openly discuss the top regulatory changes being considered for near-term adoption. After this forum, this work will be handed over to the planning board to bring to residents through public hearings and a formal vote in March of 2026. And then on the half sheet, well, that would be, let's talk about the catchy phrases. What do we want to say to get people's attention and then give a follow-up? I'm not very good at this, but I was still thinking about catchphrases, and you see a lot of things where media is trying to get your attention. One of them might be what you said, because really the message is we've learned from what you said, from what you told us, and we're taking that forward now and talking with you about the potential ideas. It's technically called the pathways stage of our grant. I'm not sure that's the kind of thing that's going to catch anybody. I still use it occasionally, but it's not very catchy. Another thing might be we learned. And again, or hear the results. I know Marilyn's really good at this, not to put her on the spot, but you guys are all got a much better handle on this. So those are some ideas. For the half sheet, Steve was rolling out as a possibility. You're invited to the Housing Commission's final public forum to provide an input on regulatory recommendations that will help New London tackle the housing crisis.
Yeah, but it doesn't say regulatory. The email says regulatory, but not.
Well, that's language we would put in the ad. So pay no attention
Suggested, but
Pay no attention to the wording in these draft ads. It's just placeholders. Okay? We have to decide what we want to put in those places where the text is.
so would both ads run at some point? Or how-
Well, the other notion is what we want to do.
Yeah.
That's a good question, Marilyn. My original thought is this is our last shot, and we ought to have a full page at some point, whether it be just before the week before the event, or whether it should be next week, and then the follow-up would be a half page. I'm inclined to do a full page next week and then a half page right before the event, but it's up to all of us. What gets the most impact for the dollars that we're spending?
well, I guess my question is, do we or don't we want to say, I kind of like the pink that's written there, except that Steve's portion where it says, discuss the top regulatory changes being considered for near-term adoption. The less words, the better, but don't we want to let people know that, hey, this is it. We're going to give you this information. It's going to get discussed because it's going to go to a vote. I mean, that's the bottom line.
So near-term adoption it's got a nice ring to it.
Well, I don't know if everybody agrees that near-term adoption, I think that's kind of, it's not enough layman for me. I don't know.
I would simplify the language a little.
Yeah.
To get people's attention, we should say something like, we heard you, come here, next steps, before, or next steps on feedback to the planning board or some, let's be specific, but short and sweet and to the point. I mean, that's not perfect, but
Do you like we listened as well as we heard you?
either one, but you want to use the word you as much as possible. People respond to that when they think it's personal. And
point.
and we also want to tell them that, you know, you might even want to say, final meeting before results or before recommendations are sent to the planning board. Something short, sweet, and to the point, so they know what's happening, you know, or something like that.
I think instead of what's next, say last chance.
There you go.
I dislike that.
Yep,
But also include final.
yep. Final forum.
Peter, I have a phone call based on our 3:20 card, so I'm gonna have to.
Yes, yes, thank you. Thanks for coming. We said at 3:20 would be a hard stop. So
gotta
so
get to the
let me just get this header right. We listened to you. Does that sound good?
I
Or
think we heard you is fine.
we heard you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I think I can pen this together. Unless there's some other suggestions or. Okay,
Chance idea. It's a good idea.
so I think I have nothing more. We do allow, we got 2 minutes for public comment. Rich, do you have any other thoughts?
No, thank you.
You're good.
You-
Thanks for coming. Then I believe we're all set and I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move.
And second,
Second.
and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Thank you very much.
Thanks all.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah.